A nice sunny day enjoyed by all in late spring, finally getting warm and flowers are blooming. However, a large dark cloud in the distance doesn't promise the day will stay nice. As the day progresses, that cloud grows and gets darker and closer to the sun. Soon the sky lets out with a loud growl indicating that the nice sunny day is about to end. As the bright, warm sun retreats behind the pesky cloud, a loud booming cracks and echoes throughout the sky. As everyone begins to head back inside, the sky lets go with a cold and lonesome rain. A chill replaces the warm air, and the crowded park is now barren, aside from one person. This person is staying under a gazebo, waiting. Just as fast as the rain came, it was gone. The sun begins to peek out from behind the clouds, while the sky slowed to a slight drizzle. The lone person noticed the largest rainbow they had ever seen. The end of the rainbow was just so close. Only through a few trees and a clearing was behind there. The lucky person decides to go. As he crosses the threshold into the forest, a strange sound resonates through the air. He grows nearer to this noise and recognizes it to be an Irish jig. Approaching the clearing, he thinks he sees a small figure dancing. As quietly as he can, he gets closer for a better view. When he's only 30 feet away and his view is clear, it appears to be a very small man dancing around a cauldron type thing. Just a few steps closer, and he would be able to get the best view of this. A loud crack fills the air as the man steps on a stick, and everything goes quiet and still. The man pulls his gaze back up to the tiny man, only to be met with an angry stare coming right back at him. The small man vanishes into thin air, leaving behind the large pot. The man runs to it to see what's inside. His eyes grow wide, and his face lights up. Inside the pot is hundreds of gold coins. Out of nowhere, he hears a heavily accented voice say,
"If ye leave the gold and don't tell any souls, I will grant ye 3 wishes to fulfill all your goals."
Hello there, friends, and welcome to the Paranatural Podcast. My name is Ben.
and I'm the Pied Piper.
He's Jake. And tonight we are going to embark on the first of what will be many discussions concerning various little creatures collectively known as the Fae. And tonight we are bringing you Leprechauns. Jacob, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fan-fucking-tastic, my friend. Just
I love it.
fan-fucking-tastic.
Fucking-tastic.
So you had a little bit of an adventure.
I did.
All right.
I
Well,
did.
tell our peoples about it.
Okay. So, as we all remember, Jake has spoken about Dark Hollow quite a few times. I've gone on now 3 adventures with them, 3 investigations, and this one was a small gathering. The other ones were public. This one was private with just Derek, me, Angel, and Lindsay from Dark Hollow, and that was it. And it was great. It was excellent. It's called The Cabin on 360, and it's got quite the history behind it. In the late 70s, 1979, there was a 13-year-old girl who got raped and murdered by her stepbrother in the house right next to the cabin, which we had full access to. But people have reported seeing shadow figures, goat man things.
Goat man things.
Goat man things.
We got goat mans.
Yeah, no kidding. You hear booms, you hear knocks, cracks, a whole bunch of stuff. Someone's seen, I actually saw the picture of this, a humanoid figure with 8 appendages, like a spider, a human arachnid.
That's too many appendages.
That's a bit. Yeah. Men have 5. And like right before this, what they say caused this is they were investigating the basement, and this giant wolf spider was right behind this guy, like the size of my paw, which is a big paw. And the guy just starts going on and on about how his worst fear is spiders. And the guy who was giving us the tour, he's like telling the guy not to say that out loud because it will use your fear against you. And sure as shit, that Spider-Man came down right behind him, and they got it on picture, and it shot right back up when he turned around. But people have heard like blood curdling screams. People have drawn. They actually got a freaking really old demonology book to like put a face to what demon they thought was in the basement, because someone sketched what they saw. They said it was staring right at them and no one else could see it. So she sketches what it looks like. And at first glance, it looked like one of the like fish monsters from Scooby Doo, like with the side fins.
With the side fins.
Yeah, this head fins. Then there's a picture they actually took in thermal, and it shows something like that, like well, exactly like that, really. So then they pull up the picture from the demonology book, and it's actually a demon known as Astaroth that looks exactly like the sketching and the picture. So that was pretty cool. So I'll skip a good amount. Like, if you guys want to know more, there's podcasts, there's history on the internet. Look it up. I'm not going to spoil everything, but what happened to me, and I know I'm a brave, stoic son of a bitch, but
no floating orb or ectoplasmic mist is going to ruffle the paranormal pedigree of this supernatural sleuth.
it's exactly how I feel, but it wasn't an orb or So I was sitting on the stairs by my onesies, nobody else on the stairs. And Angel, Lindsay, and Derek are sitting in chairs in the living room, like across from me. And I kept thinking that I heard, I can't remember what it's called, Ben.
A spirit box.
Spirit box, thank you.
What it does is it very rapidly switches through radio stations. The theory being that the spirits can use whatever's being said in the radio. They will put it together to make words and therefore be able to communicate.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't come out very clear most of the time. So like at first I thought it kept saying he's coming behind you and like stuff like that. So I was a bit uneasy on the stairs, but like, I'm a macho mother effer until this fucking thing, clear as day, says my last name correctly, correct pronunciation, which people who know me can't even do that.
I can barely say your last name correctly. I try, but it doesn't always work.
This thing says it perfectly. I jumped right the fuck up. I started like going over to Derek to be like, did you just fucking hear that shit? But he's asking me that at the same exact time. So we're all like giddy and freaked out. And and Angel is he's like, isn't that the coolest thing ever? Isn't this so great? I'm like, I'll let you know once my heart stops breaking my fucking ribs.
Well, once I'm done having a stroke, I will we can talk about this.
So needless to say, I was a bit on edge after that. And we went directly over to the house right after that session. And mind you, this entire time we had like the mag lights on, we had cat balls on, and nothing was really going off. And then we set up in the other house, and we set up the mag light where did I said the girl got killed, and okay. Yeah, so we set it up in her room, the mag light, and then we set up the cat balls in her brother's room. And the entire time we're asking questions, like yes and no questions. And it's very intelligently answering like yes or no very quickly too. So that was pretty cool. We went outside after that, had a little bonfire, and then at 3:00, like we looked at the time right when they started going off. We were out there for probably an hour or more at the fire, telling great stories. Thank you, Angel. That was a great time. But right at 3:00, the cat balls just start going off along with everything else. And the entire time, we swear we kept hearing one of the devices, like it makes a very loud beeping if an energy gets close to it, or if a human gets close to it too. So we decide, let's go to the basement where the frickin' demon is and spiders. So we go down there, set up shop, sit down in the chairs, and we start asking questions. And the mag light right next to me just keeps going off. Like we were asking questions, and once again, it's answering rapidly. Said it's not evil.
Lies!
We don't know. Yeah,
Liar!
It's probably evil. Apparently, it also affects people's emotions, which I remained my happy, awesome self the entire time, along with everyone other than, Derek trying to wrestle me like normal. But I ended up moving, and like it starts using both the mag lights, the one that was closer to Derek, and within probably 10 seconds, it dropped 10, 15 degrees in the basement, which was really cool. Like there wasn't a draft. It just got bone chilling. Like everyone just puts their hood up, and they didn't realize everyone did it until they're like, are all of our hoods on? They're like, yeah, it just got real fucking cold. So I'm wearing my GoPro. It's attached to my pumpkin. And so I'm walking around the basement. Next thing I know, it fucking dies, and it makes a loud beep when it dies. I about jumped out of my fucking skin again. But all in all, it was a freaking blast. So thank you again, Angel. Happy birthday, buddy. Monday's his birthday, everyone.
Oh, well then, happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks, Derek, for accompanying, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right. So, we're going to talk about leprechauns, but before we do, as always, if you enjoy our show, please do not forget to tell a friend about us. Send them an episode or something, bring them into the show so they can listen. And don't forget to leave that 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Apple iTunes or wherever the hell you do that nowadays. If we get 250, we're going to set up a Facebook chit chat live with you guys just to hang out, meet and greet and all that stuff. So please get in there and do it, and bring friends and have them do it too.
And we got some cool shit coming up. So you want to get that live out of the way.
Yeah,
real soon.
for real. All right,
Yeah.
Jacob.
Start liking shit, reviewing, rating. Do that shit.
All right, buddy. Tell us
All right.
about the wee folk.
All right. So I'm gonna start with like the origin, because that's the best place to start. The leprechaun story has been a beloved aspect of Irish lore. They are believed to be a part of another piece of famous folklore, as they are traditionally known as, well, to be members of the fairy family / fae. Tales of this small creature first emerged in the 8th century, when legends of tiny water dwellers began circulating amongst the Celts, however you want to say it. It's Celts, right? Celtic.
I believe so. I'm not sure which one is actually correct.
I'm pretty sure it's the Celts.
Most people I've heard say Celts.
Their name is thought to come from the word Lucherpon, or Lukerpon, meaning small body. No surprise there, as they are said to be only 2 to 3 feet tall. Where do these little folks live? In order to hide from humans, they are known to dwell in tiny underground caves or hollow tree trunks. Sounding a lot like Keebler elves.
Oh, they don't make cookies, though, do they?
Nope. No, according to this, they make something else. and
Meth.
I will get into that.
They make meth.
I hope not. They are famous for being the cobblers of the fairy world, and their name is also associated with the old term Leith Brogan, meaning shoemaker. This profession is what earns them their iconic pots of gold. While we think of these creatures as imaginary, belief in them and other closely related fae was actually widespread throughout Ireland. This is one of the reasons that this icon is now so ingrained into Irish culture even today. Also, I want to say that actually I forgot what I was going to say. I can't remember what I was going to say. It was super important though.
Well, that makes for good podcasting.
Hey,
It's almost
You've
like
already-
we do this every week.
over the years, the history of the leprechauns have become associated with everything green, and they are now often depicted as old men dressed in a hat and a suit of that color, wearing buckled shoes and or smoking a pipe. However, this was not always the case. In fact, you may be surprised to know that they were originally depicted as wearing red and were thought of as being dressed in this color for many years. They weren't always green.
No, that came around during the Catholic Protestant wars. One was orange, one was green, and I cannot remember which was which, but
Leprechauns used to be communists. So over time, they evolved into into little green wearing fellas, and those are what we've come to know and love today. Many theorize that this is due to the general popularity of the color green throughout Ireland, but Benjamin just shined some light on that. This is in part because of the prominence on the Irish flag, as well as the widely used name, the Emerald Isle. Whatever the reason, green has become synonymous with leprechauns and St. Paddy's Day, or St. Patrick's Day, alike.
just for the record, that's Paddy is Paddy. That is the way you spell Patty when it's a shortened male version. Patty is a lady's
male.
name.
Yeah. Apparently, I heard from an Irish person talking about St. Patrick's Day. Apparently, it's like derogatory to say St. Paddy's Day.
I don't know about that, but
Well,
I just don't know about it. You're probably right.
when I was doing my research for this, apparently people were like, I think you ready to lose some fans here, Ben?
Both of them. Go ahead, bud.
All right. Well, not both of them, because me and you are fans. So I think some liberal effing douchebags just like got into this freaking comment section and kind of said that they were from Ireland, because they're saying dressing up for St. Patrick's Day is demeaning to Irish people. Saying St. Paddy's Day, incorporating it with drinking, like a whole bunch of stuff. Like,
So
come on.
in the States, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day a lot more fervently than they do in Ireland.
But I've known a few Irish people like from Ireland.
I feel like they're probably not offended, but
They're not the type to be offended by anything. If anything, it's like it's not something to be offended by. Like, nobody's dressing up for St. Paddy's Day, drinking, getting drunk, thinking, "Ha, we're making fun of the Irish." No, I fucking love Irish people. They're some of the funniest motherfuckers on the earth, and
I don't know many, but whatever.
I've met probably 5 or 6, and they're excellent people. Plus, half the people I like to watch on the interwebs are Irish, just because I freaking love their accent.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few Irish comedians, and they never fail to just make me want to piss myself laughing. So,
Yeah. So, whatever anyone else says, like, fucking love you, Ireland. I love the Irish people. I love St. Paddy's Day. Love you guys. If you ever listen to this. If not, the love is still there.
We do get listens from Ireland from time to time.
Fuck yeah. So, okay, you ready to lose the rest of our fans?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Legend has it that there are no female leprechauns. So, Jake's theory, they're hermaphrodites that can impregnate themselves and or each other.
They are asexual.
Asexual.
Yes.
Say bisexual. Yeah, they can reproduce with themselves.
That's what asexual means.
I know. I was actually clearing that up because I knew it. I like to sound smart. Now, where did this pot of gold thing come from? One key component of the leprechaun story is their famous pot of gold. They are known to possess and hoard their prize pots and traditionally hide this treasure at the end of a rainbow. This means that humans need to catch them in order to find this fortune, as it is impossible to actually locate the end of this natural phenomenon. Is that true?
Yes. Rainbows are not physical things. They're visual. So what happens is the sunlight comes through the rain, the water, and it's a prism effect. So all you're seeing is the sunlight being broken down into its individual parts. You can see the same thing with a garden hose.
Yeah, garden gnomes.
So they're not physical, so obviously you can't find the end of it.
I could. How's about the luck of the Irish? The lucky symbols, all that stuff. The leprechaun story says capturing these small creatures, that's mean, these little fellas, will secure a wee bit of luck in addition to 3 wishes. With this in mind, they have become associated with the luck of the Irish, which is one of the reasons they remain so popular today.
That and Lucky Charms.
You notice he never really gets the Lucky Charms. The kids always get them.
I mean, he brings them, though.
Yeah, but...
So obviously he has a stash.
You never get to see him enjoying them, though.
I still prefer the leprechaun from the movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get into that a little bit.
Warwick Davis was awesome in that role.
Dude, for as long as I've, watched at least one of the movies, probably the first one with my girlfriend. My girlfriend was in the movie. I didn't watch it with my girlfriend because I don't have one. Jennifer Aniston. But I've always said if there was some way that Jason, Freddy, Leprechaun, all of them came to life, the one that I would want to kill me if I had to die would be Leprechaun, because at least he gives you a classy little rhyme, a clever rhyme with what your wish was and why you're getting fucked up by it.
Yeah, he is he's a poetic little fucker.
He is.
Which, if you have not seen the Leprechaun film or film series, because they're all pretty fun.
They really are.
You really should, listeners. Just go watch it. Just go experience that. Be ready for some 90s camp and fun in a slasher flick. It's amazing.
It is definitely underrated. So Benjamin, are leprechauns just sweet little fellas?
Absolutely fucking not.
No, they're little tricksters. Many who look for the fortune are looking for the gold or the luck, wishes, whatever. They need to beware. These teeny tiny men are also known to be tricksters. They are said to deceive humans and serve as a giant warning against greed. So they got a good motive in it. Some even believe that they hide their gold simply in order to lure the unsuspecting, and when granting the captors 3 wishes, they often lead them astray.
We'll get into this as we talk about other members of the Fae. Never, ever, ever trust the Fae.
Except for the people from Fern Gully.
Especially the people from Fern Gully.
What? Not the tree guy, but the fairies you can trust.
Those are fairies. They're not Fae. There's a difference.
All right, well. So keep your eyes open. They can often be heard tapping their tiny cobbler hammers in the distance, which signals listeners that they are near. They can also be heard dancing away to the traditional Irish music and are even known to play instruments while doing a little jig. Now, we're going to get into some true sightings of leprechauns. An Irish man recounts a story his father told him about a time he encountered a leprechaun. I wish I had you to do the accent on this. I suck at Irish accents. That's like my favorite one.
Bad accent incoming. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I'm not going to do it.
Aw, damn it.
No, dude. Like my first 3 words will sound Irish, and then it goes like hardcore English. It's no bueno.
All right.
My old man was very kind but stoic. He didn't tell this to many people, and when I asked him about it, he would hush me unless we were alone or with family. They knew as well. Anyway, it happened in his hometown, a rural village that must have had a population of about 100 people at the time. As a kid, he'd walk home alone from the local national school to the family's house that was outside of town. One day, he was walking along, and just before his house, he saw a wee little fella, actual words,
An actual wee little fella.
a wee little fella sitting on the side of the road. The lad was tiny. He gestures to the length of about 2 feet, and he was wearing tweed, a vest and all, a hat, red hair, and he was sitting down making leather shoes, just like you hear leprechauns do. Anyway, my dad couldn't believe it. He blinked, looked around, but the lad was still there, just working away on his shoes. So my dad starts walking up to him, and when he got just about 3 meters away, he couldn't get any closer. It was like my dad hit a force field or something around the leprechaun. Mind ya, the wee fella hadn't looked up the whole time. My dad sprinted to his front door screaming for his sister all the way to come look. He and my aunt, who was just a kid at the time, ran back outside to see, but the leprechaun was gone, just disappeared like nothing.
Well,
Making shoes, not paying no mind to anyone.
that's the way of the leprechaun.
Aye.
Unless you fuck with him.
Or take their gold. A very strange story that appeared in various news sources at the time comes from 1964 in the city of Liverpool, England, at a place called Jubilee Park. Here there are expanses of green parkland, peaceful meadows, and golf courses. Come on, Ireland right there. It sounds like
Didn't
Ireland.
you just say Liverpool?
I know, but I'm saying it sounds like
that's
Ireland.
not Ireland.
It sounds like Ireland.
Okay.
Rolling hills, golf courses. Look up a trip to Ireland. That's what they offer. Rolling green hills and golf courses. That's what they offer.
Okay.
And it was that year people began reporting that they had seen leprechauns lurking about, especially in an area called the Bowling Greens. The otherworldly tiny beings were described as being anywhere from just a few inches tall to several feet, and had the traditional appearance of being bearded little men with bushy eyebrows and dressed in white hats and green coats. And some of the reports even said that the men themselves had green skin. The creatures were mostly called leprechauns by witnesses, and the media picked that term up. One witness at the time would say, but before I do that, have you ever heard of them having green skin?
I feel like maybe, but I couldn't tell you where I heard of that.
Yeah, they need to get some vitamin C.
Is that what causes green skin?
Scurvy?
Makes your skin green?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh. Okay, so one witness would say at the time, I was one of the school children and saw those leprechauns. I attended Bray Street School, and we all saw them popping in and out of the window overlooking the schoolyard. There were about 4 of them, all tiny, dressed like a school book idea of a typical gnome, and they sat swinging their legs on the window ledge, getting in and out. What they were, I don't know. I only know what they look like. I'd love to know the truth. I certainly remember them being called leprechauns, and I actually saw a few of them on Kensington Field, close to the library, but my parents and other adults tried to convince me that I'd been seeing things. This would be one afternoon in early July 1964 around 4:30 p.m. I remember as if it were yesterday. I was 10 and on my way to play football with my mates and saw these little, I'd say just a few inches tall men dressed in red and black standing in the grass looking at me. I'm sure one of them had some type of hat on. I panicked and ran all the way home. My mom said there had been reports of leprechauns and little green men on Jubilee Drive and Edge Lane the day before. That same evening, crowds turned up on Jubilee Drive, and I remember a girl with a jam jar saying that she was going to put leprechauns in it.
They're not fucking lightning bugs.
I don't think they would want to be in a little jar.
Put them in there with a stick and a leaf and like.
Yeah, are they gonna? That's how they get wings and turn into fairies.
There you go.
Go into a little cocoon. When the reports such as this became publicized, they generated a lot of interest, and crowds of people, especially children, began to gather at the Bowling Green in the hopes of seeing them. The crowd of curiosity seekers grew so large that police had to go in and clear everyone out. But the reports continued on. In that same year, there was a woman living nearby who had claimed to see 3 of these little men wearing green, who were all sitting on the wall lobbing stones at her barking dog. That's not nice. And another who saw one climbing a tree. Adding to the weirdness of all of it was that there was also several UFO sightings in the area during that same year. Although the connection these have to the leprechaun flap is unknown. It is also not known why they were called leprechauns other than their appearance.
I mean, they
Come
didn't see
on.
him making no damn shoes, did they?
Yeah, you see something that looks like a dog, it's probably a fucking dog.
I mean, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, right?
It's probably a fucking goose.
It's probably a goose. It's a
Although-
goose in disguise because they wanted to come in sneaky to execute their evil plans.
That reminds me of that stupid joke from when I was a kid. What's red and looks like a bucket?
What?
A red bucket. What's blue and looks like a bucket? A red bucket in disguise.
That's dumb, but I like it.
It's like dad joke dumb. So it's still funny, but dumb.
Yep.
Although, was that an echo? You got an echo going on?
Not that I know of.
Although there is a large population of these descendants of Irish immigrants in the area. So them throwing the little rocks, that's interesting. I've heard of them hucking shit quite a few times.
Well, if you're only 2 feet tall, you're not going to go to fisticuffs.
Says who?
Anybody who's only 2 feet tall. What, are they going to punch you in the shin?
Yeah. Or like slam down their little hammer on your toenail. Fucking ouch. Break your toe, blacken the nail. Youch. Yeah, there's quite a few reports describing leprechauns tossing like pieces of dirt or rocks at each other or witnesses. And that kind of ties in with their whole like troublemaking.
Yeah, they're mischievous little fuckers.
Yeah. But there are other accounts that feature this propensity for throwing things. And other accounts from the book Mysterious Disappearances and Other Strange Tales by Ron Quinn. There is an account of a couple called Rick and Joyce who apparently owned a remote mountain cabin where they would spend their weekends. One day they were out tending the garden when a small stone landed at their feet. Seemingly, it came out of nowhere. Puzzled, they look around and at first suspected it was maybe a squirrel and it dropped it from a tree, but there was nothing that they saw. As they looked, another stone fell, and it appeared to have been like thrown, but they say it didn't seem to mean harm. Another stone followed, bouncing against the porch and tumbling down the steps. The baffled couple look up in the tree once again, staring through the branches, and this time they claim they saw the face of a little man peering out from the leaves at them, which they called it a leprechaun, wearing a bright pointy hat, sporting a full beard. The little man was only about a foot in height and seemed to smile at them before jumping down from the tree onto their roof and disappearing into the brush. The couple tried to coax the strange little man back out, but he was gone, and they would not get another sighting. Again, we're faced with the question, what is it? I think it's a leprechaun.
Might have been a gnome.
A gnomrecon?
Yeah.
So, do you think, with it just cracking a grin at him after hucking rocks, do you think it was just like playing with them or like just being a little dickhead or what?
Yeah, he was just causing mischief for his own amusement.
See, they get a bad rep for it. There's a shit ton of kids who will like throw shit at cars or egg houses.
Yep.
Why are they getting such a bad rep? They're just like those old looking bearded little fellas. They're actually teenagers just having a laugh.
Those are the leprechaun kids.
Yeah,
Beards be
leper
damned.
kids.
They just come out fully formed like that.
Yeah, they burst from the male womb with a freaking. There's so much testosterone going on since there's no females that they just shoot out with a beard.
That could happen. I was kind of thinking more like a Gremlins scenario, where they like they bud, right? Like baby leprechauns just grow on the adult leprechaun's back, and then when it's ready, it just shoots off, fully formed.
And you just water it.
You water it,
feed
it after midnight, and there you go. You got a shoemaker.
And you ain't got no mogwai no more.
Nope.
I love that movie too.
Yeah, me too.
Freaking really love that movie. I haven't seen it in so long. It scared the shit out of me when I was little.
I mean, I just thought it was great. Never scared me.
Have you watched the second one?
Well, yeah. That one's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. So, from the same book as A Tale from a Man named Pat O'Leary, and as an older report from the year 1884. Pat apparently saw a little leprechaun just standing 15 inches tall, standing along a rural road, and decided to chase him. The gnome-like being was described as being remarkably fast and agile for his size, but somehow Pat managed to keep up with it. He chased it into a clearing, but it had vanished. As Pat looked around for it, he was suddenly pelted in the forehead by a ball of mud, which would later prove to have left an inexplicable mole behind. Whatever this thing was, it didn't appreciate getting chased.
Chasing a leprechaun around, fucking whack.
Get pegged right in the head with some mud.
Take that, you tall bastard.
Ben didn't use any voice changer for that. He just gave his balls a tug and it sounded like that. It is curious just how many reports of supposed leprechauns happen outside of Ireland or even the British Isles, yet they are still described as leprechauns. And so I went to Reddit and I found this one, and I also found it on a website. Like this person telling the same story. She has two accounts that were told to her about real leprechauns. The first one definitely sounds more believable, but I'll let you be the judgment. So this is from a Reddit poster called Existential Dread 14, and she claims she knows two people who have had leprechaun encounters in western Pennsylvania. The first tale, she says, comes from a police officer she calls Mike, and who worked with her ex-boyfriend's dad, the chief of police. On this day, Mike was out on patrol driving down the road that on either side was a field of tall dead brown grass. when a series of very bizarre events would play out. She says, all of a sudden, Mike saw what he thought was an animal coming out of the grass on the left side. He said he saw the next sequence of events in slow motion. He tried to slow his cruiser down. He saw that it was not an animal, but indeed a small, bald, dirty man dressed in ragged clothes, approximately 2 feet tall, running from the grass. He slammed on his brakes. The cruiser did not stop fast enough, and he hit the small man with the front of his car. The man flew up into the air. Mike jumped out and ran to the front. He said he looked down at the small man when he noticed he had reddish brown hair. The little man began screaming an evil laugh and hopped up, running into the tall grass on the right side of the road. Mike ran after him, but all he heard was the sound of the evil laugh mocking him. When Mike got back to the station, he was visibly shaken. My ex's father said he was pale white and could barely choke out the story. When he finished telling them what happened, everyone except my ex's dad began howling with laughter. The other cops teased him relentlessly about the leprechaun story, since it was about 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day. One of the cops went to the dollar store and bought a leprechaun hat. He left it on Mike's doorstep with a note stuck to the brim saying, "I'm coming for you, Mikey." That's
Dicks.
awesome. The next morning, Mike came in crying and told my ex's father that he was going to quit the police force. My ex's father believed Mike and said that he could tell he was extremely sincere in his belief that he'd hit a leprechaun. He told the other cops to leave him alone about it, and Mike worked with him for years to come. I first heard this story from my ex's father. I could tell he really believed Mike had seen what he had seen. Later that year, Mike was over at my ex's house. I asked Mike about the story. He grew pale and quiet, and he told me the exact same story that my ex's father had earlier told me. He insists and has always insisted that he hit a leprechaun with his car that day. It's kind of neat. I was kind of expecting it to like pop up with 2 middle fingers. The poster's second account supposedly comes from her childhood best friend, Susan, who lived in a rural farmhouse that was supposedly haunted. She says that Susan would often tell her about strange things that happened in the old house or on the property, and one of these stories was even stranger than most. One morning, she came into school and told me in a whisper that she had a leprechaun in the hallway of her room the night before. I could tell it scared her. I asked her if she'd ever seen it before, and she says that she had. She said she'd heard rustling noises out in the hallway and gotten out of bed to peek around the corner. And the corner of the hall. Do halls have corners?
If they turn, they do.
In the corner of the hall, she saw a small man approximately 2 feet tall in dirty clothes with red hair. She froze in fear, and she said the little man disappeared. She said she'd seen him before out of the corner of her eye moving in the hallway at all hours of the day. I remember her clear as day saying to me that she did not look like it did not look like the leprechaun on the Lucky Charms box. I hope not. That's animated, stupid.
Among other things. Anyway.
This is where I didn't like her story. Being an amateur paranormal investigator, even at 9, I asked her to draw me a picture. I still have the picture somewhere at my parents'. She drew a small man with red hair standing in the hallway. She believed she saw the leprechaun one more time. Then she told me she never saw it again. It should be noted, too, that Susan was not asleep in her bed at these times. She thought she saw the leprechaun. She would see it in the hallway or out of the corner of her eye while she was upstairs. I believed, too, she only saw it over a 6-month period. A lot of strange things happened in her house, and I know she believed what she saw and wasn't just making stories up. How are you a paranormal investigator at 9?
My kid's ghost hunt.
Does that count? Okay.
Technically.
Well, I'm sorry, Existential Dread 14. I'm just not used to badass parents like Ben.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what your definition of amateur paranormal investigator is, because if you're curious about it and you like hearing stories that people tell about it, I guess that kind of counts. You're very amateur, but you're doing it.
But you're not investigating.
Hearing stories is investigating.
Ugh. That's researching.
Which is part of investigation. Bah, yourself.
I did, but I bed you first. So this is like in my notes. I just said, let's have fun now. So I already had a plan with this.
Mm-hmm. Before you do that, there's one other sighting I would like to talk about. Okay. I'm not sure if the name of the town is Crichton or Crichton, but it's in, where the hell was that? Alabama.
I know this one. Anyone seen the leprechaun say yeah?
It is a news story from like 17 years ago. And, well, we'll just, here you go.
Well, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, crowds are coming by the dozens to get an up-close view at what some say is a piece of Irish folklore.
Some people in the Crichton area of Mobile say a leprechaun is taking up residence in their neighborhood. A leprechaun. NBC 15's Brian Johnson has more.
Curiosity leads to large crowds in Mobile's Crichton community, many of you bringing binoculars, camcorders, even camera phones to take pictures.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun say yeah?
Eyewitnesses say the leprechaun only comes out at night. If you shine a light in its direction, it suddenly disappears. This amateur sketch resembles what many of you say the leprechaun looks like. Others find it hard to believe and have come up with their own theories and explanations for the image.
My theory is it's casting a shadow from the other limb.
Could be a crackhead that got hold to the wrong stuff. And it told him to get up in a tree and play a leprechaun.
We're going to get down to the bottom of this. Yeah, it's still on there, guy. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, man.
This guy helping to direct traffic says he's prepared for his encounter with the leprechaun. He's suited up from head to toe.
This wars off smells right here. This is a special leprechaun flute, which has been passed down from thousands of years ago from my great-great-grandfather who was Irish. I just came to help out.
Others just came to get lucky in hopes a pot of gold may be buried under this tree.
I'm gonna run a backhoe and uproot that tree. I want to know where the gold at. I want the gold. Give me the gold. I want the gold.
This is Brian Johnson, NBC 15 News.
People will do anything for a pot of gold. I mean, anything.
You know what I like? I like the amateur sketch of the leprechaun. It looked like somebody got a really good look at it and got that good drawing out there.
Who did that? I want to know who sketched that.
I don't know. Maybe Brian sketched it.
Doodle it.
That was a good story.
So I will absolutely share that video in the Facebook group. Hearing it is fun enough, but watching it is an absolute blast. So
Fucking drawing.
That is the only contribution to this episode I actually decided to make. So there you go.
I appreciate it.
That's the Crichton leprechaun story.
You gotta tell me how hard you laughed when you saw the drawing.
Oh God, at that drawing, you guys got to go watch the video. I'll put it on the Facebook group. That drawing, phenomenal. It is absolutely top tier.
Oh, it's fucking funny.
It looks like an egg in a hat. Anyway.
With wee little eyes.
But anyway, there's my contribution to the leprechaun conversation. Back to you.
Well, you're contributing even more because I want you to talk about the movie.
All right, what are we going to talk about with the movie?
Okay. What is the leprechaun in that movie?
He's a leprechaun.
Like, what's he all about, though?
In the movie, the whole plot. Do we want to spoil the movie for him?
A little bit.
So the plot revolves around people that find the leprechaun's gold, and he murders them to get it back, and
in cool ways.
Yeah,
sorry, I lost. I had to blow up your ass.
Very, very creative ways.
Like, he uses their wishes against him. I won't spoil the whole thing, but I'm gonna talk about my favorite death in the whole series, or at least the movies I've watched. So this lady uses her wish to wish for bigger boobs and a bigger butt.
I think that was the third one.
Was it?
I think.
It's my favorite death in it. Just because of what so her boobs and her butt her breasts and buttocks just keep growing and growing and growing because she didn't specify, I want them this big, I want big. So they just keep growing and growing until they explode. And then while she's like laying there dead in a pile of boob guts and butt guts,
Yes.
he's like, I'm sorry, alas, I had to blow up your ass. Oh, it cracked me up. I watched that when I was like probably 15 and I was laughing my whole tuchus off.
Yeah, Warwick Davis is the titular character in those, and he manages to play the role in a way that is both creepy as hell and absolutely hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
He's phenomenal in those movies.
So something that I thought would just be like the greatest fucking like coming together movie, like they did Freddy and Jason. They're talking about doing Nightmare and Derry. So Pennywise versus Freddy. But I think Leprechaun versus Chucky would just be like the greatest fucking thing ever.
Maybe.
I think it would. Okay, yeah. Let's see what else I got in here. Conclusion. What do you feel about leprechauns? You think they're real?
That's a tough one. I believe like all these stories come from somewhere.
Did you know that leprechauns are an endangered species in Ireland?
Are they?
They are. Like it's an actual law.
Oh.
They're an endangered species in Ireland.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. Someone's got to believe.
I know a lot of people do believe in them.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, like, I've always been more into like cryptids and ghosties and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if I was more into the Fae, I'd probably be more inclined to like believe and like search more about like sightings of those and other Fae, which I'm probably end up getting more into because it's a lot of interesting shit.
It is a fairly interesting topic. And one thing I'll say on it, you brought up the UFO thing. There is a theory that Fae encounters were actually people's way of describing alien encounters back in the day.
Yeah, they go way, way back, like before 1000, right?
The
back in like 800 AD, don't they?
That's when it was first kind of recorded. The lore of the Fae goes back significantly farther than that. Like, it's always kind of been a part of Celtic tradition. Wow, I said that word real stupid. Celtic tradition.
Yeah, that's what I got on the Leprechauns.
Well, all right, buddy. Then on that note, we will say, as always, thank you so very much for joining us every week here on the Paranatural Podcast. Don't forget to tell a friend, share the show. We love you. We'll see you next time. Good night.
If you do listen every week, if not, start listening every week, then I will love you too. Good night.